The Black Panther Party was formed in the aftermath of the nonviolent civil rights movement. During this time, most protests were conducted by sit-ins or marches. While the civil rights movement ended legal racism, it did not end all discrimination. In America, blacks were still shut out of jobs, terrorized by the police, forced into ghettos by discriminatory housing practices, victims of poor education systems, and suffered dismal poverty rates. Something had to be done about these deplorable conditions African Americans were living in. At the time, President Johnson tried to resolve these issues through the implementation of the Great Society programs, but this was not enough. The black community needed something more to lead them out of this terrible situation. So Black Power, or Black people's control of their own neighborhoods, was introduced and mainly articulated by Malcolm X. Malcolm had an instinctive appeal to young and poor African Americans because of his condemnation for the traditional civil rights strategy of nonviolence, and instead, he urged self-defense against racist policies in America. Malcolm's call for self-defense was mainly in response to police brutality ravaging the black community. Because of the increase of the black population after the Great Migrations, the resulting exodus of whites from these urban communities, and the amplified crime rates in these neighborhoods attributed to the rising poverty rate, which caused the police presence in the area to balloon, resulting in a sharp rise in incidents of police brutality. Malcolm's death in 1965 galvanized Huey Newton and Bobby Seale to form the Black Panther Party for Armed Self-Defense. The party's main philosophy of revolutionary black nationalism reflected an amalgamation of the Revolutionary Action Committee and Malcolm X's philosophies. According to Donna March, author of Living for the City, Migration, Education, and the Rise of the Black Panther Party in Oakland, California, the Panthers saw the black community as a colony within America that was regularly subjected to violence by a foreign occupying army, or the police. As a result, the early focus of the party was on the regulation of the police force. They accomplished this by armed patrols of the police. According to Huey, the police patrols hoped to raise encounters to a higher level and enforce a change in behavior. Here, a member explains the appeal of Huey and Bobby's agenda to him.
Nonviolent tactics and those appeals to God and Allah and whoever, brothers didn't want to hear that. And so here, all of a sudden, here come two niggas with some guns, stand in front of the cop and talk to the cop just like the cops talking to them. They check that out. They really want to know what that's about.
The 10-point program was the Black Panthers' manifesto that echoed the party's beliefs of African Americans' need to self-determinate and to make their communities better. The 10-point program stated, Number 1, we want freedom. We want power to determine the destiny of our black community. Number 2, we want full employment for our people. Number 3, we want an end to the robbery by the capitalists of our black community. Number 4, we want decent housing fit for the shelter of human beings. Number 5, we want education for our people that exposes the true nature of this decadent American society. We want education that teaches us our true history and our role in the present-day society. Number 6, we want black men to be exempt from military service. Number 7, we want an immediate end to police brutality and the murder of black people. Number 8, we want freedom for all black men held in federal, state, county, and city prisons and jails. Number 9, we want all black people, when brought to trial, to be tried in court by a jury of their peer group or people from their black communities, as defined by the Constitution of the United States. Number 10, we want land, bread, housing, education, clothing, justice, and peace. The focus on police drew people to the party because it tapped into a sense of anger and hunger for change within the community that was universal to all age groups, especially young black people. The Panthers were frequently accused of being an anti-white organization, but this was not the case. Bobby Seale explains the true philosophy of the Panther Party in this clip.
The Examiner made a report back here in the last Sunday's paper that we were anti-white, that we hold no bones, this is a quote, pick no bones about being anti-white. This is a bold-faced lie. We don't hate nobody because of their color. We hate oppression. We hate murder of black people in our communities. We hate the gross unemployment that exists in our communities. We hate black men being taken off into the military service. to be fighting for racist, decadent American promised us freedom. In the Civil War, 186,000 black men fought in the military service, and we were promised freedom, and we didn't get it. In World War II, 350,000 black men fought, and we were promised freedom, and we didn't get it. In World War II, 850,000 black men fought, and we were promised freedom, and we didn't get it. In the Korean conflict, the so-called police action, a war, we fought there, and we didn't get it. Now here we go with the damn Vietnam War, and we still ain't getting nothing but racist police brutality, etc. We all get oppression.
The common answer to why the Black Panthers were a threat to the FBI is their survival programs. These survival programs were revolutionary community-based programs organized by the Panthers to improve their communities. Now, the Panthers are known for their violent and radical philosophies, but the real purpose of the party was community service. I propose that the Black Panthers were a threat to the community because of two things. First, their survival programs' emphasis and effect on children, and second, these programs undermined the government because it made them realize their failures in the Black community. The first and most popular survival program was free breakfast for children. During this time, most African Americans lived below the poverty line, so parents had to choose between providing their child a place to live or food. As a result, most children went to school hungry. Both the school districts and the government's rare anti-poverty programs did not solve these problems, instead only making them worse. The purpose of the program was to provide children with a nourishing breakfast every morning before school. The Panthers believed that every child should be exceptionally educated, and the best way to achieve this education is with a full stomach. After the program was running for a couple of months, they saw great improvement in the children's academic skills. It is important to note the Panthers made sure every child, regardless of race, was included. The program built the foundation of a nurturing relationship between the party and children. Later, this connection could be used to attract children to the Panthers' teachings, thus creating the next leaders of the party. After the success of Breakfast for Children, the party wanted to expand their crusade against hunger to every member of the community. Thus, they established the free food program. Every month, they would give out 10,000 bags of groceries to the community. Inside these bags were canned goods, fruit, and whole chickens. All of the food inside the bags were donated by local Black businesses. In concordance with Point 5 in their 10-point program, the Panthers wanted to teach children about African Americans' history and their role in society. They felt that in the public school system, Black children were not taught their history as a way to control and curtail their participation in society. The Panthers wanted to teach children how to think, not what to think. So they established liberation schools where their chapters were present. At the height of the party, there were 150 kids enrolled in the school. Also, these students outperformed their public school counterparts. These kids got the chance to interact with leaders such as Rosa Parks, Maya Angelou, and Cesar Chavez. These visits, coupled with the school's teachings, made the institution's purpose clear: to create the next generation of Panther members and leaders. The last significant survival program was the free health clinics. These were formed in response to the many African Americans poorly serviced by the public health system. At the time, the only instance Blacks saw a doctor was if they were severely injured or dying. Since the community was so poor, the only way to receive care was if it was free. So, Bobby and Huey created the clinics with free services to all. These services included sickle cell testing, physicals, first aid, children's health, combat drug addiction, and general well-being advice. It is estimated that the clinic served about 2,000 people a week, operating on a few medically licensed and community volunteers. The Panthers believed that improving the health status of Blacks also improved their political, economic, and social status. Since the party's future rested with the children, they had to ensure their health. Here, Bobby Seale presents his response to Hoover's assertion that the Panthers were a threat to the community.
Strokes is going to try to jump up and say some crap like, well, he's a threat to the community. Or Breakfast for Children and spread it all over this darn country now, in Chicago and Illinois and Des Moines. You name it, and it's still moving. Is that a threat to the community? We want some free health clinics? Is that a threat to the community? The fact that we want some community control of police, is that a threat to the community? No, none of us are a threat to the community.
The party focused on children because they are both the future and impressionable. For example, Val Douglas, a teacher at one of the liberation schools, exclaimed that most of their children raise their hands without being asked to speak about the 10-point program and platform, what's happening in their community, pigs or police, and panthers. This shows that the children are involved in this learning process and becoming active members in the party, therefore establishing a lasting legacy of the Black Panthers, which frightened the FBI so much that they launched an entire counterintelligence program to stop them.
Nixon's 1970 campaign and election were built on racism. As soon as he saw the Panthers' influence in the community, he immediately asked J. Edgar Hoover, the director of the FBI, to stop the party's growth. Hoover saw the party as a threat because of its survival programs' influence over children. He states, these survival programs portray the party in a favorable light and clouds the violent nature of the group and its ultimate aim of insurrection, and provides the Black Panther Party with a ready audience composed of highly impressionable youths. As a result, the Black Panthers are the single greatest threat to the internal security of the country. Hoover adapted the McCarthy-era counterintelligence program to exterminate the Panthers. Hoover established 5 long-term goals for COINTELPRO. First, prevent the union of Black nationalists. Second, prevent the rise of a Messiah to unify the community. Third, mark potential troublemakers and neutralize them before they become violent. Fourth, discredit the party to the Black community, white sympathizers, and their followers. Fifth, the most important goal was to prevent the growth and conversion of youth followers.
After the national attention of the survival programs, Hoover decided now was the time to disrupt the Panthers' expansion. So, the first act of business was to end the survival programs, starting with free breakfast for children. They did it by mailing letters to the owners of the buildings that the breakfast programs were operating out of, telling them of the Panthers' presence, and implying the decline of the property value associated with their occupancy. Similarly, in San Diego, the Panthers were operating their programs out of a church. The FBI used fake phone calls from the congregation protesting the use of the church for Panther purposes, wrote to the bishop calling for the removal of the priest that allowed the Panthers to use their facilities, and ultimately stopped the program in San Diego and got the priest reassigned. Also, they attacked their fundraising activities. They contacted donors, employers, and other corporations that supported the Panthers as concerned customers and threatened to pull their business if they kept their support for the party. Most of the companies acquiesced and pulled their funds from the party. So, the withdrawal of funds ends the survival programs and stops the Panthers' influence on children. The most effective effort to end the free breakfast programs were the FBI's distribution of a derogatory coloring book for children, displaying inaccurate reflections of the Panthers' ideology and insensitive images of the Black community. The coloring books were handed out at grocery stores, toy stores, and fast food restaurants such as McDonald's and Jack in the Box, in an effort to dissuade right liberals and more children from joining the Panthers' cause. The FBI wanted to stop the spread of Panther propaganda. They wanted to accomplish this by stopping the publication of the newspaper and preventing the party's speaking engagements. To the FBI, the newspaper was one of the most effective propaganda operations of the party because of its circulation to over 139,000 members. They believed that the paper was the voice of the party and that ending the paper will suffocate the party. To stop the paper, the FBI used the IRS to investigate the cost of transporting the papers from their Oakland headquarters to the 50 offices throughout the nation. Because of fake documents supplied by the FBI, the IRS found that the Panthers were not paying enough taxes to ship the papers and seized most of their assets, thus ending the newspaper. To prevent speaking engagements, the FBI used more incendiary tactics. At the beginning of Bobby Seale's West Coast tour, the FBI set off a bomb outside his speaking venue in Oregon and mailed fake threats to him and his mother. As a result, the speaking engagements had to be canceled. Since most of his speeches were held at schools and universities, these talks needed to be silenced to prevent the spread of Panther ideology to impressionable Black youths. As the program started to produce results, the FBI's plans became more sinister. They began to turn Panther members against one another. This tactic was meant to aggravate and exploit dissension among the party. The FBI sent a fake letter to Fred Hampton, leader of the Chicago Black Panthers, telling him that someone within the party wants him out of the way. Also, the FBI placed anonymous phone calls and used informants to spread rumors to Hampton, claiming to be members of the party and to plant dissension among them. This misinformation led other members to accuse an unnamed party official of being an FBI informant. COINTELPRO also aggravated conflicts between the Black Panthers and competing organizations. The major conflict was between the Blackstone Rangers and the Chicago Panthers. The Rangers wanted the Panthers to join their organization, but Fred Hampton, the leader of the Chicago Panthers, was indifferent. The FBI sent a fake letter to the Rangers claiming that the Panthers were planning to violently target their leaders. The FBI explained that they focused on the Rangers because they were more inclined to react violently to the fake letter. But this letter did not create the turmoil the FBI wanted, and they reconciled. Later, it was determined that Hampton will become the national spokesperson of the Black Panther Party. But he did not know that his security guard, William O'Neill, was an FBI informant. On December 4, 1969, O'Neill gave the local police a detailed floor plan of Hampton's apartment and drugged him. Then at 4 a.m., under the guise of seizing illegal weapons, Chicago police raided Hampton's apartment. The warrant was obtained illegally with the help of the FBI. The police fired 90 shots, killing Fred Hampton. The police denied the massacre and charged those present and injured during the raid with aggravated assault, but those charges were later dropped. The police tried to spread the story that the Panthers fired first, but the forensics did not support their claim. When the police brought out Fred's dead body, they were seen visibly smiling.
The divide between Eldridge Cleaver and Huey Newton was the end of the Black Panther Party. Huey wanted to turn the party towards community service, but Cleaver wanted to keep the focus on violence. Independent of outside influences, the rift between Cleaver and Newton could have been fixed, but the FBI exploited the fracture. Then the FBI sent fabricated letters to both Cleaver and Newton condemning their leadership styles. They sent separate fictitious letters to Cleaver in Africa, claiming that Huey was trying to supplant his rule in Oakland, and to Huey's brother Martin, warning him that Eldridge followers were planning to kill him in the presence of an informant in Newton's circle. All of these events caused Newton to crack. He became paranoid of the existence of an informant close to him and responded violently to any question of his actions or policies. Also, Cleaver became more isolated in Africa. Another cause of the end of the party was the rising cost of their defense against the FBI. During the span of 2 years, there were 739 Panthers arrested and $4,890,000 spent on bail money alone. This cost, coupled with the lack of leadership due to the constant incarceration of the Panthers, crippled the party.
The overall significance of COINTELPRO and the Black Panthers is that the experience is indicative of the prolonged struggle to regulate Black bodies and, by extension, Black consciousness in America. Nat Turner's rebellion was the first example of the power of Black unity against oppression and the resulting efforts to suppress this unity. The same fears of a Black congregation for change were evident in the civil rights movement, the Black Panthers, and today's Black Lives Matter groups. Because, as Eldridge Cleaver stated, every time people disagree with those in power, it sends in its force to make them agree.